Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah, and welcome to our bi-weekly mind presentation series. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Omair Anas. Dr. Omair Anas teaches international relations at Ankara University, Turkey. He was previously associated with the Indian Council of World Affairs in New Delhi, which is an autonomous think tank of India's Ministry of External Affairs. Dr. Anas received his PhD from Center for West Asian Studies at Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi in the year 2015. He was visiting scholar at Freie University Berlin from 2012 to 2013. He has published several research papers in international journals, edited volumes, and as part of many international think tanks. His commentaries and comments appear on prominent print and broadcast media including Al-Jazeera, BBC, Middle East Eye, TRT World, and Indian Express. He specializes in and teaches non-Western international relations, Middle East relations, India-West Asia, and India-Turkey relations. His academic publications are available on ResearchGate and academia. Without further ado, I would invite Dr. Umair Anas to give his presentation on foreign policy and the craft of international relations.
National relations, the craft of foreign policy. And as I have been told that many of our friends who are here, they are not particularly the students of IR. So my purpose is to give you an understanding of how IR or how diplomacy and foreign policy things function in general. So my target is to give you a perspective of these issues and especially a context in which they function. So I have this a brief presentation, and then I will also show you one more picture which I will use throughout the presentation. But let's begin from here. So you can see uh, when we talk about international relations and when we talk about a foreign policy, we precisely talk about modern world because we don't listen such things very frequently. The primary origin of the modern nation state, we can trace it to the Treaty of Westphalia, and then this is the in 1648, and this is the time when you see that Europe is having a massive wave of industrialization, and because of industrialization, they have new uh, technological development, they have transportation, they have mass production, they have got so much fast communication tools, like you can see here. I have given the pictures. So even though for you, the pictures which I have shown you are the slowest mode of communication and transportation in our time, but at that time they were like just like we have today, artificial intelligence. At that time, these technologies were unimaginable for at that time, and because of the massive industrialization, the mass production started, and when mass production starts, it changes the society, it changes the distribution of resources in the society. How? In The clear example is that in a normal productivity, you just make one thing, and if you need one shirt, you prepare just one shirt. But if you have mass production, you can produce the same shirt in 500, 5,000, even 100,000 quantity. However, when you want to produce these things in large quantity, you need primarily so much raw material. You also need a large market where you can sell these things, and also because these things are not going to be produced for a prepaid mode, so you need a market where you can sell these things after the production. So it means that it involves getting raw material from somewhere and investing a lot of money in advance, which means you have to have cash in your hand or somewhere in organized way, and also you have to have a lot of laborers and market things. So industrialization has pushed a new reorganization of the society in a new way. So new cities are emerging, new boundaries are emerging, new divisions within the human society are emerging, and distant places are being connected because raw material was not much in abundance in European society. So they have to see somewhere else, especially to Africa, to Asia, to Southeast Asia, and other countries. So urbanization is happening, new cities are emerging, and uh, with this, uh, you know, industrialization has led to the rise of capitalism and then colonization. So most of the countries in Europe, and industrialization is primarily happening in Europe. So European countries are looking outside Europe where they can get raw material. So, as I told you that when industrialization happened, they needed a lot of capital, a capital which they can invest in advance. So, this led to the rise of banking system, organized banking system. So, you can see, for example, first very organized bank in Amsterdam, which was founded in 1609. You can see one more bank, Bank of England, in 1697. And if you know, this is the bank which was primarily funding the East India Company, the commercial company which later on would colonize India and many other countries. You can see East India House, and then the Netherlands Bank. Netherlands Bank was responsible for slave trade from Africa to Europe, and these are the banks which were sponsoring a lot of economic activities of new industrial projects in Europe. So, as I have told you that this industrialization has allowed so many processes. So you can see with industrialization, capitalism is coming, urbanization is happening, and new technology is coming, transportation is uh, increasing, and connectivity with distant market is expanding. So too has expanded the colonial project of European countries to all over the world. So you can see in the pink color, the United Kingdom's colonies all over the world. Then in blue, French colonies. Then Portuguese were um, capturing many places. And then you can see Spain, Netherlands, Belgium, United States, Russia, Italy, Germany. So colonization was happening all over the world, primarily to seek raw material. And then they found that with raw material, they can also expand their political and military activities. And the initial purpose was to have raw material and economic activities to sell things. But gradually, they found that the non-European societies are not enough capable to manage their affairs. So they got into the local business and they established their military bases, and they started interfering in their governing affairs as well. So it is how the colonization period has also started. So you can see a lot of, for example, in the Pacific Ocean, you see, if I can give you a clear picture, so many small islands, and most of the islands are captured by or colonized by many countries. So even France, Great Britain, Japan, Netherlands, Portugal, United States. So they are all occupying and colonizing these small islands all over the Pacific and Indian Ocean. For example, if you see the Indian Ocean, especially in the Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal, you see that there are English settlements, there are French settlements, there are Dutch, there are Danish, many settlements. Now, what happened that with this, you see anti-colonial struggles started, and then the First World War, the Second World War, and finally after the Second World War, most of the countries are free and independent. As I have told you that uh, the world which we have today is primarily a product of a process of industrialization, technological development in Europe, and the Enlightenment or intellectual empowerment which was happening in Europe. So Europe was introducing itself as a philosophical leader of the world. They were introducing liberalism to the world, to the free market economy to the world, and many new philosophical values. And they were talking about enlightened ideas. So they thought that the entire world is a dark place, and they are the most civilized people, and their responsibility is to make people, uncivilized people, to as civilized. So they were under the white man's burden, which means that the white men, they realize that the rest of the world is so uncivilized that they have the responsibility to make people more civilized. So under this burden, most of the countries were colonized, and then within 200 years, 300 years, most of the countries were they got independence. However, colonization is coming to an end, but the system which the industrialization process had started was not finished. So still, even after the independence, even after the end of colonization, the system which we got as legacy of industrialization is still there. Market economy is dominating the system. The nation state, which were primarily the outcome of industrialization process, are there, and many other institutions which were byproduct of industrialization are there. So, for example, you can see in industrialization, pre-industrialization area periods, you don't have so many financial institutions or organized finance activities, but um, under the industrialization process, you have to have an organized market activity, organized financial activity, organized manufacturing, and everything. Every economic activity is going to be extremely micromanaged. So in this way, what we have today after the Second World War and after the First World War, of course, we have entirely unique world where we have nation states, and the world is divided into nation states, and each nation state is being acknowledged as a sovereign state. So the idea of nation state, the idea of sovereignty, territoriality is coming. So new terminologies are being introduced by the end of First World War. So a lot of new things are coming. So if you have watched this movie Wanted of Salman Khan, if you remember this scene in which a mafia is getting independence, he was kidnapped in a place, and he got away, and he came out, and he thought that he got independence, and he cheered a lot, and he said, yes, I have become independent now. But when he realized that, when he came outside, he saw that yes, he is independent, but the independence which he has got is on a ship, and the ship is in the middle of a sea. So it means that you are independent within that ship, but outside the ship you cannot go. So the post-colonial system in which we are today, yes, we got the independence, but we are on a ship, and we are surrounded by the sea, and we cannot jump out of the ship. So it means that the capitalist and industrial economic system on which we are the ship on which we are still there, and that ship has been built or has been given by the colonial system. So technically we can say we are in post-colonial system. However, we are still in that period. Now, I would like to give you a brief of, let me, yes, if you can see this image, uh, so Treaty of Westphalia, and as I have told you that Treaty of Westphalia, industrialization and mercantilism and enlightenment and scientific discoveries, colonization is happening. So the world is divided into colonized versus colonial and imperial powers, industrialized versus not industrialized societies, modern state system versus primordial, feudal, and tribal states like we have in Asian countries, technologically advanced countries, and developing and underdeveloping countries. And with this, we got nation states as the primary actor of international system. So before colonial system, we had imperial system, for example, the Ottoman Empire, the Mughal Empire, the Chinese Empire, and then the kingdoms in Southeast Asia, and many kingdoms in Africa and Arabian Peninsula. However, after the colonization period, we have nation states as primary actors. And nation state means that they have territorially defined borders, and uh, they are sovereign in a sense that they cannot attack others, and they have to respect the sovereignty of each state member in the system. And with this territorial sovereignty also comes the economic and taxation system, which means that within these boundaries you have certain taxes and you have certain economic uh, institutions, banks, and everything. So you have much more organized international and domestic systems under the nation state. We can say that nation states are, of course, one of the most problematic institutions. However, nation state is the most successful political institutions human history has founded so far. So the world which we got after the independence and after the end of colonization, we normally divide them as core and periphery. Core and periphery means the countries which have industrial power, which have technological power, which have economic power, which have philosophical power, of course. They are also called liberal. And then we have countries which were earlier colonized. They are mostly third world countries. They are also called non-Western countries, and now we use a term for them as global south. So the fault line in the international system is very much clear. The previously colonial countries, which are industrial, which are very powerful, which are technological, and the colonized countries, which are still traditional and not so much developing. So international system has emerged within this category, and the countries which have brought this international system are primarily the colonial states. So the institutions which we have got, modern nation state, the new concepts, everything new which we have got, we got from them. And within that system, we are talking about diplomacy. We are talking about many new things. So key concepts, for example, we are talking about diplomacy, we are talking about states, we are talking about non-state actors, we are talking about globalization, we are talking about international security, we are talking about WHO and balance of power and many other things. So for example, when we say diplomacy, so we primarily say diplomacy is an art of to negotiate for your interest in an unequal world system. So you have, of course, you have diplomatic rights, you have so much diplomatic power, but you have to negotiate your power, your interest within this unequal world system. So the international system say America and Qatar are same, or America and Somalia are same. In practical, we know that the bargaining power of Somalia cannot be same as of the United States. So the difference is huge, and that difference is not going to be bridged within decades, within 100 years even. So we cannot imagine that Somalia can be equal to the United States even in the next 100 years. It is simply impossible by all means, by all assessments. Then we have states as primary actors, because the states have to negotiate on behalf of us, on behalf of our issues. We also have non-state actors. They are also going to talk about, for example, there are technological, for example, Elon Musk, non-state actor, but he is very much part of state politics. We have investors, we have banks, we have non-state actors who are quite violent, like Daesh, like Al Qaeda, like many other terrorist organizations or violent groups. We also have aid groups, we have trade organizations, we have cultural organizations, and within that we frequently we hear the term globalization. So when we say globalization, we such sometimes we are so much super excited about globalization. However, the simplest definition of globalization is that globalization is meant to simplify the existing capitalist world order by moving capital, labor, and market. So if you see globalization, what exactly globalization is doing? Globalization is moving the capital from one place to another place. Example, a lot of investment, American investment, has gone to China, and then Chinese economy has quite developed on the basis of these investments. And then China became manufacturing hub and technological hub, and China became the world's largest exporter of technology and everything. Within that system, if you see, China has become a supplier to the world economy. However, most of the investment which has come to China is American investment. Similarly, in India, similarly in many other countries. So, large countries, the developed countries, are sending or investing their capital to some developing countries, and then they are giving them responsibility to do something, and then the profit is going. So if you see the pattern, who is investing, who is getting the maximum profit? Yes, there are some countries which are also getting profit, but the profit which the owners are getting and the profit which the mediators are getting, there is a huge difference. And in my classes also, I sometimes I give this example. If you see the world system as a core and periphery, so industrialized countries like America, United Kingdom, France, they are core countries, they have technology and everything. And there are peripheral countries, and then there are some medium countries. So core countries have all technological power. However, they have become so developed that they cannot invest so much in some manual jobs. For example, they have to clean their streets, but they cannot clean their streets because if they have to clean themselves, they have to pay like $7,000. So what they will do, they will ease the immigration rules, and they will ask Asians and Middle Eastern and Africans to come to their country and clean the roads and get $1,000, $2,000. That's it. So they will save $5,000, a minimum amount to them, and by doing that, they are going to replace their labor force into much more productive things. At the same time, you must have heard the term outsourcing. Of course, you are from IT business, so you know outsourcing. So in outsourcing, entire outsourcing business, there is a good movie about also outsource. So the most profit making ideas and projects will be kept within the United States. Only the cheap things or non-important things will be given to Indian and Philippines and Pakistani call centers. They have to call to the customers about their credit cards. So they have to just train them for about their banking issues. By outsourcing the business, they are saving a lot of money. So the pattern of globalization is that the core is still core, and the periphery is still periphery, and the periphery is investing its labor force into menial non-important jobs. So for example, one of the most important questions which we are talking about in India is that we have almost 500,000 engineers who are mostly unemployable. Why? Because this outsourcing business has made them unemployable simply because they were hired by the business organization in which they were not doing a lot of things on research and development or on innovation or real technological issues. A large number of them were working on back offices in which they didn't have much to do except to work on uh, data management and things were not related to technological innovation and or new learning. So you can see India became the back office of technology, while the United States and its companies they dramatically grew up, and today we can see that most of the even AI related innovations are happening in the United States and India Philippines, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and these other countries have still been as a back office of this globalization. So that is why when I say globalization sometimes excites us, but if you see the pattern of things, movement of things, what kind of labor is moving from one place to another place, and what kind of investment is coming from one place to another place, the pattern is very much clear that the capitalist countries or the core countries are trying to maintain their dominance, their hegemony on technology, on knowledge, on science, on defense, and on everything. So, international security, we talk a lot about. International security system means to maintain the status quo of the United Nations Security Council and Western dominance. As I have been using the term that when we talk about international system, it is primarily West-led international system. West-led international system means the Security Council, which was found in after the Second World War. It was primarily to protect the interest of the colonial countries. So we are still in that age. So, for example, we are so much surprised that there are so many resolutions against Israel by the United Nations Security Council, but none of them have been implemented. And a large number of United Nations Security Council resolutions have been vetoed by the United States or their or its allies in the West. So, international security system is still the same. Then we have WTO, World Trade Organization, World Health Organization. We have IMF and major other organizations. If you see their role is to maintain the Western hegemony. So IMF is providing funds. However, the funds are coming with a large of with so many strict strings. For example, they have to provide some funds to Pakistan, and they are asking Pakistan that if you have to take the fund from IMF, you have to liberalize your economy, you have to restructure your economy, and by this they mean that, for example, they have to sell their Pakistan Airlines to private, and they have to privatize so many things. So IMF loan does not come free of strings. So they have to apply so many things. We also listen the term balance of power. Balance of power means they each country tries to maintain a unique model for itself so that it can keep the enemy countries away from its influence, its area of influence, and they can maximize their power. Coming to actors, I will come a bit later how to see at the world from the theoretical perspectives, but we see actors. For example, we have states, we have non-state actors, we have MNCs, international organizations, regional organizations, financial institutions. There are so many organizations, and there are so many state and non-state actors which are active on this front. Then we have to see what kind of competition takes place between the states. Competition takes place about investment. Every country would like to have American investment, so they would compete with each other about investment, about energy, about technology, about military, about defense, about maritime, about security. They would like to have the best possible alliance. They would like to acquire the best possible hard power. So each country would you can see that each country is going to have a competitive uh, politics about expanding, maximizing their gains in these areas. Yes, they would also cooperate, for example, on trade, on supply chain, on climate issues, on so many global common issues, for example, about space, about sea, about climate change, about the pandemic which happened in 21, on global health, on development issues also, of course, they would like to cooperate. Coming back to the same slide once again. Yeah. So, as I have explained that the determinants of modern international relations, we have colonial legacy, it defines. So, even though we say that we are independent, even we say we are in post-colonial era, however, technically we are not, because we are living in the same legacy, in the same institutions which were created by the colonial countries. And of course, these colonial institutions were created by for their interest primarily. Nation state and its institutions are there. They are the most important factors. So, for example, there are so many Muslims in the world. They think that sometime they can reverse this process and they can reverse the making of nation states and they can bring a new system. Sometimes they call it as khilafat or an Islamic governance. As, however, they sometimes do not realize that nation states have become so influential, so deeply entrenched in our day to day politics that to reverse the nation state has become almost impossible. And this nation state institutions have a strong support, backing of industrialization and technological and scientific dividends, which for which we are benefiting today. So the modern IR is primarily an outcome of First World War and Second World War, and the major divisions happened at that time. Most of the international financial institutions have emerged within that context, and West has the military and philosophical supremacy on that. For example, if you listen to the speeches of American presidents, they talk a lot about their democracy and their values. Let me show you, yeah, here. If you see, yes, this is American State Department's strategic planning, which they had declared on their website. For example, if you see their objectives, so in their objectives, they always say they would like to strengthen democratic institutions, uphold universal values, and promote human dignity to revitalize the diplomatic and development workforce and institutions. And they talk about scientific things, they talk about humanitarian leadership, they talk about climate mitigation and adaptation outcomes, they talk about. So you can see that the United States is talking about an international diplomacy which is not just limited to the United States, but also about the global politics. So United States is working beyond its nation state. If you talk about Somalia, for example, if you see the discourses of Somalian diplomacy and Somalian foreign policy, they would restrict their mandate within or for the Somalian affairs. Why? Because they don't have the resources to become global leader. Their entire budget, their entire economy or GDP is less than the American State Department. So they cannot invest in that kind of things. But Americans are almost $13 trillion economy. They are like an empire. So they have the ability and they have the resources to become the world leader. And they have intellectual resources for that. They have technological resources for that. They have the financial institutions by which they can maintain their dominance in the world system. Similarly, you can see, for example, Indian foreign policy. I have, unfortunately, the screenshot which I had taken is not very clear, but you can see that Indians, with their resources, they also are trying to work on, for example, development for international institutions like SU, United Nations Security Council, about Palestine, about counterterrorism. So India is like a middle order country. America is first order country. However, Indian interest or Indian ambition is kind of similar with the United States
Uh,
ambitions because
uh, Dr. Umair, we cannot. If you change the slide, we don't see the change in slide. We
I
are still
think,
seeing the
yeah.
boxes of.
Also, if you can full screen your presentation, Umar, bhai.
it is full screen.
So we are only seeing the determinants of modern IR as the.
Really?
Yeah, right now we are seeing that.
But reshare. I will reshare it so that. Okay. Is it changing now?
No, it's still the determinant of modern. I think the when you go into the slide share
One
mode,
second.
it is not changing. Maybe just keep it in the PPT format. I think that will be.
I have changed it here. I am not sharing any other anything else on, and then I am going to take this,
You have.
share it.
I think the full screen. I often found that the full screen mode creates problem. So if we just share the
Okay. For example,
now it
now
is
can you
changing.
see it?
Yeah, now it is changing.
Okay, so it means that I should not see. I should not go in full screen mode.
Yeah, that's. I think that's the problem. With the,
Okay. 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 So I don't know if you have seen. Uh, have you seen this image which I had
yeah,
shared?
we have seen till this box. Yeah, till this we have
Okay.
seen.
So determinants of for modern IR.
Yeah.
So I have told you that international financial institutions are there, Western philosophical supremacy is there, military supremacy is there, and they are going to be there. So accordingly, uh, with the division of financial, technological, and scientific capability of countries, the ambitions of these countries are also displayed. So Americans, the Chinese, Russians, the French, the British, and Europeans, they have far more superior resources and capabilities. So um, their their foreign policy agenda is much more diverse, much more beyond their boundaries. So they just don't talk about their own issues, but also they talk about the issues of other places. So how is it possible? Because uh, if you have $13 trillion economy, this means that you have to have at least 50% of things coming from outside. So you are much more dependent on export to a large number of countries. You are much more dependent on a supply chain, global supply chain, from which you are going to get a lot of raw material and other material from the global countries. So uh, to maintain your $13 trillion economy intact, safe, sustainable, you must have the international system in your favor. Any disruption, any single disruption, for example, any single disruption on the Suez Canal will primarily hurt the American economy. Any single disruption in the Mediterranean, any single disruption in Israel, any single disruption in Asia Pacific or Pacific Ocean, especially in South China Sea, is going to affect American interest because American economy is deeply connected, deeply dependent on world economy. So American export and American import, American investment all over the world, American institutions, American. That is why, accordingly, you see the more, the bigger your economy is, the more you are going to invest on your defense capabilities, your financial institutions. So sometimes we ask why there are so many American bases all over the world. You have an American base in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, you have an American base all over the world in many places. So why exactly they have these bases there? This is because Americans have the responsibility to protect the world system in which their economy, on which their economy is deeply dependent. They have to protect their allies. They have to protect the countries from where they get a lot of import and or where they make a lot of export. And the size of economy which Americans have is so much that they cannot simply compromise on that. So if there is any disruption on this, so American are going to lose a lot of things, and that is why you see that American democracy or American political system has become so much diverse that it is not a normal nation state. A normal nation state, for example, Somalia or Qatar or Egypt, for example, or I should say, a normal nation state is even Bangladesh, I should say. They have under $500 billion economy, and they have a traditional standard of export and import, and they don't have the resources to have military bases anywhere in the world, anywhere. They don't have resources to buy a lot of F-35 or any advanced fighter jets. They don't have enough resources to modernize their military or even their infrastructure. So based on this economic power, all countries try to perform in their diplomacy. And as I gave you a clear example, that the larger your economy, the diverse your economy, the bigger your economy, the diverse and bigger your diplomacy is going to be. So American diplomacy is going to be the most superior diplomacy. G20 countries, you know, G20 countries, the top 20 countries, best performing countries on economy, they are going to have the best possible diplomatic efforts in the world. Why? Because they are part of the G20. So they have a lot of resources to do that. So if you see their foreign policy agenda, they are talking about everything. They are talking about human rights. But Somalians can't talk about, they can't dictate anything about human rights in the world because they don't have that kind of capability. So foreign policy agenda is going to be decided by these issues. Now, as I have given you the example of American diplomacy, now I should go back again to the same. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, can you see it?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can
you
see
can
it.
see it, isn't it?
Yes, we can see it.
So, how diplomacy then works? So the entire, I will come to how to see at the world. I have given you the brief background of how international system has emerged, how industrialization has created a new reality, nation states, and how technological advancement and how colonization has created so many new players, and the world system which we have today, and the reality of things. And then we see this entire politics from outside as a academician, as a think tank person, as a theoretical person. So there are so many theoretical aspects to see at these world politics. When we say theory, theory means something which, theory is not just a thought. Theory means it is some formula, which means that if you do this, this will happen. And if this happens, it becomes a principle which can be applied to many other examples. So it means that it has the ability to be generalized. So, which means that it can be generalized. So if you see the entire international relations theory or the science of international relations or the books of international relations, they have been written within the period of industrialization and colonization. So when you read international relations books, you read the books as if international system was never there before industrialization or before colonization. The modern world or diplomacy or international relations or the relations among the people of distant geographies have is the reality of our world only. So if you read any book, you don't find an example from Abbasid Empire. You don't find an example from the Indian empires, Mughal Empire, or the ancient Indian empires, Chandragupta, Maurya, Kushan. You don't find an example from these empires. You don't find an example from the Ottoman Empire or any other local kingdoms. As if there were no relations between these empires and there were no diplomatic traditions between these countries. Then we ask why exactly they have not included these countries or these traditions of international relations into new international relations books? Precisely because the modern international system in which we are living is a nation state system, and it is a system which has been created by the colonial legacy and the countries which were colonial power previously. So the examples have been taken from there. So nation state, when we have nation states, and when we apply these theories on nation states, we can easily find that yes, these theories are correct. So, for example, one of the most prominent theory of international relations is realism. Realism clearly says one thing: nation state thinks like human mind, and human mind thinks primarily first about his own security, his own interest. So I should not be attacked, I should not be killed by anyone, and I should have a security system so that I can save my life. And if I am attacked and if my life is in danger, I can do anything to protect myself, and I can even do some kind of a preemptive attacks. I can make a boundary outside my house. I can I can buy a gun, I can buy many other things. So not just defensive things, but also I can have preemptive capability to defend myself. So Morgenthau, for example, the founder or the main thinker of realism, he has explained that all nation states, they function primarily, their politics is driven by realist mindset, because they think like human mind, and they think about their security of a nation state, the survival of a nation state, the survival of its borders, its territory, is the primary interest of any nation state. So uh, the national interest is that if you have this territory, you should not lose at all. At no cost, you should lose it, and you have to defend it. And to defend your national interest, you have to have the capability, which is primarily military capability. So under realism, you will have so much focus on military and security and power. What is power? Power means that you can do whatever you want, and you can force someone to do what you exactly want him to do. This is the definition, or the primary definition of power. So each nation state would like to acquire maximum power, maximum military capability, and accordingly it will try to create a balance of power so that its interests are achieved as easily as possible. So if you apply this realism theory, you can see that all countries are trying to become realist as much as possible. Within the context of nation state, yes, it is quite true. Realism also says that nation state, the state, are the primary actors. And realism says that nation states individually functions, and uh, they don't care about alliance, they don't care about institutions, they don't care about any other things. Then there were some progress, and then new realism also came, and they say yes, it is true that power and security and defense is more important. However, they also recognize that nation states can also build institutions and systems for their defense. So they say NATO was instituted, and CSTO was instituted by Russia, by Soviet Union. So there were two defense alliances, the NATO and the CSTO. So under new realism, you can build institutions and many other alliances as well. However, there are many other theories. They say states are not the primary actors. There are so many other actors. For example, liberalism says that if you have a lot of cooperation in trade and democracy, you have a good trade and you have good democratic values. So they have a famous quotation. They say democracies do not fight each other, which means that if you have a lot of democratic countries, they are not going to have to be in the war. So there is a least possibility of war among democratic countries, and there is a higher possibility of war between two non-democratic, or one democratic and one non-democratic society. So liberalism says that if we have to have secure world, if we have to have stability, and we have to have a lot of progress, then we have to promote a lot of international trade and a lot of democratic values. So they are kind of a idealist theory as well. But they are not just idealists, they are also they have also proven this through so many studies, through so much data, and they have done a lot of studies, and they have produced a lot of supporting data on that. So we cannot say liberalism just is a just a normative idea or an idealist thought. It is a theory. So there are so many other theories, and I'm just introducing you the dominant one. And then there is Marxist theory, and Marxist theory primarily says that the world is divided into haves and have-nots. Those who are super rich, those who are not rich. So the primary basis of rich countries is that they would exploit the poor, the not have not countries. So the Marxist school, especially for example in the Frankfurt school and in other schools, they introduced the theory of if you have heard, it is world system theory. Emmanuel was time, and he explained that the world is divided into core and periphery, or center and periphery. So core will maintain the technological dominance and hegemony and technological resources, and it will give things which are not important for itself, and it will give away the things which would maintain the dominance of the core, and it will give share some thoughts, some things with the periphery or semi-periphery countries. So accordingly, the world is divided into core, periphery, and semi-periphery. Semi-periphery like India, like South Africa, like Brazil, like Turkey. So core is America, and America has everything. So America is giving um investment, and America is also giving you outsourced jobs. So by having outsourced jobs, you have become like a semi-periphery country. And in private, in property business, you have one property, one owner, and you have a lot of agents. So you have 10, 15 agents, and these all of these agents, they try to sell that property so that they can get the commission. So the primary role of these medium countries or the semi-peripheral countries vis-a-vis international investment is to be that mediator or that agent. So Marxism says the world is divided into that. And if you have to have equality, we have to change the capitalist character of international economy. And we have to introduce new international system, new economic system. And in that new economic system, and after the Second World War, the world was divided into the free market economy and the Soviet-styled economy, which was primarily socialist economy. So at that time, socialist economy was very much popular. Most of the countries were trying to become socialist. They were having planned economy. They were restricting the free market economy. They were saying that in free market economy, you have to exploit the labor. You have to exploit the human rights. You have to exploit so many things. So basically, it is a kind of an inhuman thing. However, the free market thinkers, the free market economists, they have always argued that if you don't have free market economy, you can never progress, you can never grow, you can never have a better economy. So between these two ideas, Marxism still is there, and Marxism has given a lot of new theories in which the international system has improved. So I will not say, and nobody says that Marxism has completely failed. The criticism which has been made by Marxism about international system have indeed supported the international system. For example, you see now there is an institution we call Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We also have this new organization, we call it BRICS, or there are some other countries, some other organizations, including non-alignment movement, which was established in sometime in 1974. So the Marxist criticism of world politics has also led to the rise of new institutions. And from the Second World War to now, you can see that new institutions have been coming up again and again. So during the Second World War, the world was divided into two poles, the Americans and the Soviet Union. And gradually, the non-alignment movement came, the Third World came, and the rise of America, the rise of India, Indonesia, and Malaysia and other Asian countries started happening. And as a result, the Third World, the concept of Third World also emerged. So now the world which we have today, I'm not going to constructivism and other theories. Now we have the clear idea that after the Second World War, the international system was divided into the free market economy, Western countries, or capitalist world order, dominated by the core countries, uh, the Americans and West European countries, and the Soviet Union, and gradually the third world countries also started emerging. However, with the Cold War, the failure of Soviet Union was very much clear, because wherever Soviet model was adopted, wherever socialist economy was there, it was not working, it was not progressing, it was not growing at all, it was not in position to compete with the Western economy. So we had rarely seen any incidents that a nation state has been reversed. However, in one case, the West Germany and East Germany, the borders which were divided between East Germany and West Germany, and I think today is the day when the Berlin Wall was removed after the popular protest, because the people in the East Germany, they were so much fed up of the socialist economy in their country. They said that they cannot compete with the West Germany. So they raised down that wall which had divided East and West Germany, and the country became unified. As a result, after the end of the Cold War, most countries started liberalizing their economy, and they became part of global economic system, which we are today. Now we can say, and after this, that end of the Cold War, you have a lot of books. For example, one book came. It says the end of history. Francis Fukuyama wrote that book, and in that book he made an argument that now we have established the fact that liberalism is the best model for the world, and the free market economy is the best model for the world, and the defeat of Soviet Union model, the defeat of socialism has been clear. So we are now in the ultimate final point of human ideas, and in these ideas, liberalism is the best idea for human society. And within 10 years of writing this book, the greatest American economic crisis of 2008 happened. Market collapsed, and people realized that free market can cause a lot of destruction to small countries, and especially Dubai became like deserted. A lot of projects were suspended. Even Burj Khalifa, which was supposed to be Dubai Tower, I think it was named as Burj Khalifa because the king of Dubai had left no money to invest in that, and he had loan from the Emir of Abu Dhabi, and in return he had to rename the Burj Khalifa from Dubai Tower or Burj Dubai to Burj Khalifa, because he had taken a lot of loan from Abu Dhabi. So it was in 2008 financial crisis. So in that time we got to know that liberalism is not the ultimate experience or experiment for human society. Within that context, a new economic diplomacy is started. Now, if you see at global scale, all nation states are trying to be careful, and they are trying to reorganize their economy within the assessment of these risks of a free market and the assessment of the risk of having a socialist or closed economy. So a lot of social safety nets are being taken by the states, because they know that they have to save their economy from an unannounced collapse. So today's economy or today's international diplomacy is we can conclude by saying that today's world diplomacy is very much focused on number one, to maintain the international economic system. Number two, to maximize the gains of each nation state, especially for their economic interest. And as I have said here, cooperation, particularly for trade, for investment, for supply chain, for climate change, for global commons. So if you see supply chain, everyone is saying that India would like to become the major hub of supply chain. India would like to become a dependable country where India can supply to the world economy. So, for example, you see Modi, Prime Minister Modi always says that take your investment to India, and we would like to produce for the entire world. He has a famous slogan for that, and just um, uh, um, India is trying to become a hub for global supplies. So, like China has been there for a long time, and similarly, trade is a main point for cooperation. G20 an example, BRICS as an example. Uh, why exactly trade has become so important in international diplomacy? Because the nature of economy is rapidly transforming. Within 300 years, industrialization happened. It was completely mercantilism, because in mercantile economy, you have to restrict your border, you have to close down your border, you have to stop everything at your border. So you have national banks, because you cannot allow your banks to give money to any outsider person. You have to stop your taxes. So everything is nationalist. So from the first wave of industrialization, we saw a massive nationalistic ideas. But after the second industrialization process, when technology came, then we realized that we have to be dependent on many international support. So we have to get raw material from China, from India, from many other places, and we have to give them a lot of money. So we have to build some institutions. So it is how the second industrialization happened, and then cooperation happened, and then transnational companies started emerging. And within that transnational experiments, East India Company or colonial countries, colonial experiments also came. And then after that third industrial revolution also started. And in this third industrial revolution, you see a lot of massive technological things came, especially telephone, television, communication technology, even internet. So they have changed things completely. And we use a term global escape. In global escape, we say, yes, we are living in distant places, but at the same time, we are living in 5 different zones. I am here in Turkey. I am an Indian, but I am talking to a lot of friends who are based in the United States. And within United States, they are based in multiple time zones. And technology has integrated everyone. We are in different time zone, but still we are there. So they call it time escape, finance escape. So we used to have just national financial institutions, but we have today international financial institutions. We have BRICS Bank, we have International Development Bank of Jeddah, we have the Japanese bank, we have the IMF, of course. We also have World Trade Organization. We have multiple international agencies which are supporting international actors. So a lot of cooperation has come because of third industrial revolution, and now we are in the fourth, on the cusp of fourth industrial revolution, where AI is also going to play a transforming, a dramatic role in the new industrial revolution. And this new wave of industrial revolution is going to change our economic character. And with this economic character, for example, I am using this laptop. I bought this laptop from India, but this laptop, Dell, is intellectually, in terms of intellectual property right, it has been innovated by some companies in the United States. So the intellectual right of Dell laptop may be with an American company, but it has been manufactured somewhere in China, has been assembled in some city in India and has been bought by me and is being used here in Turkey. So in this way, if you see the global supply chain, one thing is which you are consuming is not necessarily produced locally. It might have been produced by multiple hands all over the world. And the fourth industrial revolution is going to maximize these things, speed up these things, and we are going to become in a hyper globalized society again. And once again, I would like to remind you that when we say globalization, globalization does not mean equality. Globalization means globalization within that competitive context. So the core countries will maintain their superiority. Yes, of course, we will maximize some of our capability, our influence, our gains, but we cannot compete with the Americans or with the Western societies. There will be some slight changes within that international system, but these changes are not going to be so dramatic that it might, for example, we cannot say Turkey can become a superpower within 20 years. It would take a lot of time. It would take a lot of energy. It would take a lot of realistic politics for Turkey to take some steps. And it cannot take. Similarly, India is going to be, certainly it is going to be a very powerful country. However, the Indian power is not going to be unchallenged. It is going to face a lot of trouble. So, as a result, the new international diplomacy is going to be focused on certain aspects of competition, as I have listed here, about investment. So, if you see the list of international diplomats by all countries, they are talking about hard power, they are talking about alliances, they are talking about security, maritime issues, defense, military, technology, energy, investment, a lot of competition about these issues. Just 2 days before, the French Defense Ministry has published a report about Turkish defense capabilities. It is quite unusual that one country, which is also a member of NATO, is publishing a very sensational report about its um, ally country. Sorry. I cannot even. Sorry. Yes. So what I was trying to say is that the competition is going to intensify on these issues. And within this domain, within this scope, cooperation will also increase, and there will be certain issues on which cooperation will happen. As I have explained within the theories of realism, in which each country would like to maximize its gain, so there will be a competition between India and China, between Turkey and Egypt, between Turkey and Iran, between Pakistan and Bangladesh, between Pakistan and India. So there will be multiple sets of cooperation, multiple sets of competition within these nation states. And the fundamentals of these competition are not going to be ideological always. They are going to be about these issues which I have listed here, and the cooperation is going also be about these issues. Now, if you have to follow international diplomacy, you have to focus on resources, material resources, defense capabilities, and especially on economic aspects. For example, we always face a question: why Americans are not so much interested in Middle East politics? Especially for the last 25 years, we have been answering this question that Americans are withdrawing from the Middle East. Nobody is, we know that we use the term American withdrawal. But the fundamental point in this American withdrawal or American disinterest or disenchantment in the Middle East, or the very much clear support for Israel, the reason is that Before 25 years, Americans used to be dependent on Gulf oil. For the last 20 years, Americans are no longer dependent on Gulf oil. Americans have shale gas. Americans have their own local energy resources. They have diversified their energy resources. Russians are no longer dependent on energy export. They energy import. They are rather exporting their energy to all over the world. So major energy dependent countries are India and China, which do not have their own local resources. So you can see that the major markets are energy markets for the Middle East are China, India, and Asian countries. So you can see a lot of interest about in the Middle East about India and China. If you see why Middle Eastern countries are so much interested in India, the main answer is that India is going to be their main client for their energy export. As Indian economy has to grow. If Indian economy has to grow by 7%, 8%, it means that India is going to be very hyper demand for energy. If, for example, just in automobile sector, if India is going to have double number of cars, we know India does not have enough number of cars. Per capita cars are still far lower than American standard. But if each Indian is going to have just one car, it means that the energy consumption in India is going to be double and triple. And for that, India has to import a lot of energy, gas, and petrol from outside. And for that, India has to be dependent on the Middle Eastern Iranian gas and oil. For that reason, India has been very much invested into the Middle Eastern politics, and same is true about China. And when Americans see that the Gulf oil is going to China and India in large number, in large quantity, then they say, look, we used to be taking care of your security because we were so much dependent on you. We no longer are dependent on your energy. So it is better that you find new security partners. So Saudis and Qataris and Kuwaitis, they are investing, number one, in their own military capabilities. You can see militarization is happening in all over the Gulf. uh, Emiratis have purchased all advanced fighter jets, including Rafale and other fighter jets. They are buying a lot of drones. Saudis are investing a lot of money in their defense. Qataris and other countries have also invested because they know that Americans are not going to back them to support them. And also, they are talking in very serious terms with Chinese and Indians for defense cooperation for on issues of security and including on maritime security. So if you have to follow the diplomatic transformation in the world and diplomatic activity all over the world, you have to follow from where the money is coming and from where the money is going, from where the energy is coming and to where energy is going, how resources are being uh, going from one place to another place, and the number of players which are involved in this entire business. If you follow these things, I think that you can easily capture the essence of foreign policy craft. And that is why I try to explain how exactly international system works and how exactly the craft of foreign policy or the art of foreign policy is being exercised by all countries. So I have not given a country specific example. I have just tried to give you an idea of how exactly a person in foreign policy institution think about the foreign policy functioning. And I think, I hope that I have given you a comprehensive idea about foreign policy craft. And I'm sure that there will be some curious questions, and I'm ready to answer some of these questions. So thank you very much, Salman Bhai. Thank you very much, Shakil Bhai, for this opportunity. And thank you all for giving your patient listening. Thank you very much.
Uh, Thank you, Jazakallah, Dr. Omair Anas, for this excellent presentation. And since there are a lot of new people here, I just wanted to briefly mention that uh, from today's presentation, we have seen that there are a lot of things that you do not hear in Muslim circles. You do not hear this type of realistic talks, a realistic assessment of what is possible in this world and what is not possible in this world, and how to make things which are not possible to be possible, and try for it. So these things you will not hear from our Muslim circles usually. It's usually about a motivational talk, and usually about like a very superficial assessment of things. So mine is one project which basically tries to bring a realistic perspective among the Muslim community about what are the realistic situation is out in the world. What is our situation, our position in this world and in this society, and how what are the things that we should be focusing on. And that is why we started this Muslim Intellectual Network for Empowerment. I posted a WhatsApp link. Inshallah, if you join, we will have more such meetings, inshallah, where we'll invite experts on certain subjects, and then will be internally we also try to learn and share knowledge with among ourselves. We have these meetings every 2 weeks, every Sunday, and 2 weeks same time. And we also do some posts on like books that we read. For example, there's a 5-part series on international relation that we posted. Most of it is not as detailed as Professor Anas has given, but it just gives a brief idea, and we touch upon many other subjects. So you're welcome to access that information and also share that. I mean, if you want to write something, we have about 900 people all over the world that the newsletter goes to. They are the subscriber at Substack. And we also, if you have a video presentation, inshallah, that also can be shared. So with that, inshallah, we'll open the questions, floor for questions. And it is late for India, so if you're feeling late, you can drop. But if you have questions, inshallah, Dr. Anas will take the questions. I think first one was whether Imran was raising hand.
Yeah, yeah, Jazakallah khairan. Yeah, Jazakallah khair for excellent presentation, Dr. Umair. So one thing that strikes me is about how to see